Hello everyone, we are back. Great news that Matchbook is back in the UK, and that means that the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast is back. All the sports podcasts have returned. I'm delighted to be back hosting the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast ahead of what's going to be a fantastic end to the Welcome to Yorkshire Ebor Festival. As we're sitting here now, we've had a day of it. We're about to get stuck into another day, and then we're going to be previewing Friday and Saturday as well, joined by Sam Turner and Steve Jones. First things first, because we're relaunching the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast. How are you, Steve? And most importantly, how have you found horse racing punting since racing returned?
Yeah, well, I think it was nice to have a little bit of a break. I know Sam and I historically would do every race that's ever run, and so it was quite nice to have a break. But it soon got back to you're itching to have a bet, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the big festivals, and it's been nice to just get back into the rhythm of it.
And the point on that, I suppose, Sam, that Steve makes is since we've come back to racing, we've had 9 and 10 race cards. So if you're looking to find a horse in every race, I mean, there's been some solid stints on your part, haven't there?
Yeah, I think the first thing to suggest is that Jonesy's morphed into some sort of cabinet minister since the lockdown happened. He looks very Tory to me today. But yeah, it's good to see your faces, boys. And it's been, I think that there's been 1 or 2 real positives to come out of the lockdown. And I think these 8 and 9 race cards have probably been top of the list, really. Less meetings on a Saturday, marvellous. And just 8 or 9 races at each track. I think it just seems a bit of more of a usable and workable system for me, to be honest.
I think some of the jockeys have definitely found that. This is a chat I know for another day, but I think some of the jockeys have certainly found that just having to go to 1 meeting has been a plus. On a personal punting level, I've been betting more than ever since the lockdown. I'm not sure if that refresh meant that I just wanted to have a go, but I think it's because we've almost had fewer meetings but more races, have been able to get stuck into a meeting. And the one thing I found harder than anything is those 3-year-old handicaps, because you've got a lot of horses into a handicap off the back of just 2 runs. I have found those very, very difficult for all I've had a wager in plenty, but I found that the hardest angle to get on those 3-year-old handicaps personally.
Yeah, I haven't found the nurseries particularly easy, Tom, either. So that, you know, there's plenty of confidence, isn't there, going to be in this podcast with us on it. But I think one thing as well is that there were quite a few horses that, because of the anxiousness to run quickly and get on the track and get back to racing, they had quite a number of runs quite quickly. And I think that 1 or 2 of them were running out of petrol quite quickly as well. So that early season form, I'm not sure how strong that is now. And I think we're almost getting to the point of the season now when a few of these horses have been to the well, that you're sort of looking for the fresher, brighter and more rested types as well for some of these big meetings.
So we're going to look at the Friday and Saturday of York. Now, if you're joining us looking for Friday, skip on, because if you're watching a recording of this, because we're going to be starting with Saturday and then moving back to Friday. It's going to take the usual form, feature races, any other bets on the day, and then we're going to finish up each day with the best bets for each respective day as well. The first race we're going to look at is the Sky Bet Ebor Handicap. Not quite as much prize money this year for obvious reasons, but nonetheless a very tricky handicap and a brilliant race. While we're getting stuck into that, Steve, what ground are you going to be working on York-wise for Saturday afternoon? What are you expecting?
Well, it was torrential there yesterday, as we all saw, but it's been such a dry summer relatively that I think it'll dry up very quickly. It's meant to be a beautiful day up at York, which makes me all the more envious of people that were there yesterday, because it's my favourite course. But it'd be the first Ebor meeting I'm missing for years and years. But I am working on good ground, maybe slightly on the quicker side, see how it goes. Maybe that's a bit too optimistic, but certainly it should be fair ground to everybody, and I wouldn't be ruling many horses out because of the ground. Only really the horses that like it deep.
Yeah, do you want to add anything to that, Sam? I just thought that the Guy time, for example, on Wednesday afternoon, I know it was good to soft in places at the time he ran. It was a very good time. They're now saying good to soft because of the rain they had. I think we could be on back to good by the time we race on Saturday.
Yeah, the going allowance I got from the first day suggested that it was very reasonable ground, and it was a very accurate going description, as you'd expect from William Darby, to be honest. So quite happy with that. It should be a lovely surface. I don't think it's going to turn into a bog. As Steve alluded to, today's supposed to be good, clear, bright day. And I think the one thing that we're going to have is very strong winds for the next 2 to 3 days. And that could have quite an impact drying out the ground. So there should be no excuses, really. Just getting a little bit of cover from those winds might be the order of the day, though.
Jonesy, take it away. Rather than me just read out, because it's an Ebor Handicap, we've got big prices, really. I think you're about 8.0 the field. So kick us off. Who are you looking at for the Sky Bet Ebor?
Well, one thing that I always like to look at is where you want to be in the race. And historically, over just shy of 1.6 miles at York, you don't really want to be up with the pace in these big field handicaps. The Melrose is the same as the Ebor. You want to be coming from off the pace, and there should be a decent enough gallop on there to allow horses from coming from the rear to play their hand. And the one I like is Pondus of Joseph O'Brien's. Ryan Moore was down to ride it. He's on another horse that I also like, Verduna Blue, but the man who's got the ride is Jamie Spencer. So if you're talking about hold-up horses, we've got the man, haven't we? So this is a really fascinating horse for me, Pondus, because he showed really decent progressive form for James Fanshawe last season, joined Joseph O'Brien for this term, having been bought by Lloyd Williams. Now, Lloyd Williams, of course, in the great Australian setup, and they buy Melbourne Cup horses with a view. So you'd like to think that the step up to 1.6 miles is going to suit Pondus. It didn't suit him last time at Leopardstown in a Group 3 because over 1.5 miles, they went absolutely no pace. He was favourite, but he was never going to be suited by that and just got out sprinted. He has gone on heavy ground before that at Roscommon, but equally last year he won at Sandown by 5 lengths on fast ground, so conditions shouldn't suit him. I think he's got a really good profile for a horse going into the Ebor. The one thing that I was slightly surprised at when I was going through the Ebor card was the fact that you'd expect a race like this to be suited by progressive 4-year-olds, and 4-year-olds haven't got much of a record in the race, but I'm not letting that put me off. I think Pondus is got a great chance.
I'm jumping straight on that bandwagon. We had a chat about this before we went on air. I'm a huge Pondus fan. I have been ever since he was his 3-year-old days when he was with Previous Connections. I always thought he wanted dig in the ground. He won on heavy ground, and I remember he won on quick ground and half surprised me, but he just always looked the type that was going to improve with time and age. I thought he was disappointing last time. I don't think it was just the pace in the race. I think he's better than that, but coming back into handicap company off a mark of 106, he's the main horse I want to play in the race. I was a little bit surprised with the Ryan Moore jumping ship going Verdana Blue. I know he rode her last time, but I just thought, given the O'Brien connection, that sort of half made me stutter a bit and go, oh, is that a negative? But look, Jamie Spencer's on board, and they're a similar sort of price, both of them. Go on, Jonesy.
We need to remember, I'd imagine that Ryan Moore's riding Verdana Blue because, of course, Doreen Tabor, Michael Tabor's wife, runs in her colours. So I'd imagine that is the connection there rather than the Joseph Aidan O'Brien connection. That
is a very astute point. Yeah, very good. Yeah, he was, like you say, he was on Pondus and now he's on Verdana Blue. So we're Team Pondus. Are you gonna complete the trio, Sam? Or
go? I feel very loath to take on Value Scope of the Mirror. Well, Value Rater. You've got more value these days, Jonesy, than Waitrose. You know, I can't work out. You know, which value you're tipping. But obviously you're going well in these Saturday handicaps, so I'm loath to take you both on. But I'm going to go with the horse I think that ran in the race last year. She's certainly on my shortlist anyway. I'd like to see how the ground rides in the next day or two first before nailing the colours definitively to the mast. But True Self, I think, very interesting filly here. Got the hood on and the tongue tie on as well this weekend, which I think will help. And if you watch last year's race, the way that she moved through the race, I mean, she's like the wrath of God. She was travelling so strongly. She hit the front as well and then just faded out of it. Whether that was a breathing issue, whether the 1.6 miles at a strong pace just found her out a little bit stamina-wise, I don't know. But maybe if Donica O'Brien, who rode her that day, could have had his time again, he might have just held on to her for a bit longer. But she really did move like the best horse in the race. She got beat 3 lengths at the line. She then spent most of the ensuing months down under, actually, you know, campaigned to win in Australia and to really do some good things down there. But she's back, obviously, with Willie Mullins in the Northern Hemisphere. And just looks to have had this race again as a main target for the season, really. So she definitely top my short list. And a couple of others that would get honourable mentions would be Daya, the top weight horse, who's drawn wide, which isn't necessarily a negative in the Ebor. I think 8 of the last 10 winners have been drawn double figures, so that's not too much of an issue for him. I think he's still improving, still progressing. I think he'll be a major player here. And Pablo Escobar, who is stretching out in trip for the first time, but they found out that he wasn't a one-trick pony last time at Goodwood by dropping him in. I think given a more patient ride, he's another one who's drawn sort of 20 wide, but obviously the William Haggas factor is going to make sure he's well found in the market. He might be just too tight a price for me to bet. So I'll go with True Self as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, she's around about 12.0 currently. Pondus round about the 14.0 mark. So, and we're hovering at a similar sort of prices. I will have a few quid on Communique as well. And I reckon on the day we could be looking at, heading towards around about the 30 mark. The last time the horse ran in a handicap, he bolted up. I'm not a 1,000,000% sure he gets the trip, but I just think back in a handicap, this horse could be really interesting. And I get Mark Johnson's wrong for fun, but I do like SDS on him. I think he is the perfect rider for a ride like Communique. He's got a really good record on him as it is. And 111, now he's just dropped down from sort of a peak rating of 115. I think I'll have a little stab at a big price, I think, for Communique. Did you want to have another one, Steve?
Yeah, I mentioned it, Verdana Blue. I mean, Sammy was talking about value. This podcast has revealed things already that Sam Turner thinks that Waitrose is value. Now, not even Tom Stanley, who gets his quinoa and his avocados from Waitrose, would consider it value, surely.
I back your tips, Jonesy, so I've got money coming out of my ears. So it doesn't matter.
If only that was true, Sammy. In fact, I backed Communique last week, and I thought it was a speculative, nice price, but I don't think the ground was ideal for Communique last week. So I'd almost be...
Just on that, I just want to ask what you think, because I'm not sure about this. The Mark Johnston York factor, it used to be 3 or 4 years ago. He'd had a terrible decade, really, at York. Are we done with that now? His horses perform.
Yeah.
We're done with it, aren't we?
I think so. I think I'm sort of getting much more confidence the last 2 or 3 years in his runners at York.
I must say, I think in the old days, he had so many runners at Newmarket July meeting and then at Goodwood. And I think that the same horses used to kind of shift along to York, and that was one perhaps step too far. And now I think that you see different kind of strategy from Mark Johnson when it comes to York. And as we saw yesterday, he was winning races. So I think we are done with it.
Good. So Verdana Blue and Pondus for you, Jonesy. You are mainly with True Self, Sam, and I'm going Pondus, chucking a bit of Communique as well. Let's kick on to the Melrose. I love this race. It doesn't mean it's easy to find the winner, but I got one I quite fancy it. But Sam, go on, take it away. You kick us off with the Melrose.
The starting point's Favourite Moon. I think the way that he moved through that Haydock race, him and Subjectivist, and they pulled an absolute mile clear. Obviously, this is a race that's quite fond and in the heart of William Haggas. Hamish won it, and he obviously has saved this horse off a mark of 87. He looks very, very tasty and very well handicapped. So he would be my number one pick as we stand. I don't think he's going to be a massive price, unfortunately. Obviously, the Haggas factory at York as well is going to ensure there's a point shaved off his price. But, he's related to Fun Mac. He's related to Favourite Girl. He's a good, strong stayer with a turn of foot and some speed. So I think he's a quality animal. I like Coltrane as well, but I'm just a little bit concerned about that Chepstow form a couple of runs ago. It hasn't worked out especially well. And my other one at a big price would probably be Fishable, who comes from a family of stayers. I think his brother or a close relation was third in a German St. Leger or a German Leger. So he's going to stay well. I think he'll find some improvement stepping up in trip, and I've been impressed with him in his couple of starts at Ripon. So that would be the short list, but I think Favourite Moon would be the favourite to top it.
I quite right with Kieran Fallon, who was on board last time when he won at Haydock. So unsurprisingly, they're repeating that trick with young Kieran Fallon. I like the other Haggas runner as well, who I have backed, may well do so again. He's around about 13.0, a star above. It's one of those. I was there when, but I was at Leicester when the horse won under Tom Marcan, beat Eclair de Lune, and spoke to Tom after the race, and he was, the horse didn't win by much, and the form's okay. The filly who he beat didn't run brilliantly at Goodwood next time, but he was really positive and impressed with the horse, the way he went about it, the way he really ground it out. He's not flashy. He went up £7 for that, which I thought was harsh enough on the face of it. He's got up another 5, finishing second at Goodwood when I backed him. But I do think the trip is going to bring out the best in him. Son of See the Stars, there's plenty of stamina in his pedigree. So mainly because I backed him at Goodwood and I felt I was unlucky. But I have sided with him again because you know how it is when you don't want to leave a horse alone and miss it. So I like him drawn 2, which I think will be fine. So I backed him. I know he's the Haggis second string, but a star above for me. Steve, for you, and if you could just expand on how important you think the draw is over this trip, or whether you pay it much attention.
Yeah, there's a saying, isn't there, that great minds think alike, but I don't think you or I have got a great mind, but we're thinking alike, which worries me intensely. Because I like William Haggis's other one, A Star Above, and he was second, beaten only a neck by Mambo Knights, another horse in this race. He's a pound better off with Mambo Knights, and I just cannot have that form not being reversed. I think, like you said, A Star Above, I think I'll love the trip. But at Goodwood, Holly Doyle got trapped on the rail, and as is quite often the case, she tried to get out, but every time she tried to edge out, there was someone coming around her outside, and Mambo Knights flew past her, and she was still on A Star Above. He was still able to get back into the race, and although he didn't have the pace to win, he got within a neck. I thought that was a great run, and they did come. And A Star Above was really finishing. It wasn't quickening; it was staying, which stepping up in trip, I think, is ideal. And you mentioned the draw in the Melrose, which is obviously the same course and distance as the Ebor. And Sam touched on it earlier. Usually you're thinking, oh, you don't want to be drawn wide, but actually you do. And I think it makes sense that if you're drawn near the rail, you're thinking, well, I've just got to hold my position, sort of thing. I've got to try and make use of that. But as I said earlier, it's the horses that are ridden patiently that tend to come to the form in the Melrose and the Ebor. So if you're drawn in the rail, you want to make use of that. If you're drawn in the middle, you think, well, I'll see how it goes. But if you're drawn on the outside, I think you've got to have a plan, whether that's to go forward and try and drop into slot into position, or come off more patiently. So I think it makes sense that in both the Ebor and the Melrose, that horses drawn wider have got a good record, because if you're trapped on the rail 4 or 5 back, you don't see any daylight until the race is really shaping up. And if you're drawn a bit wider and you've got a plan, I think you've got a few more options rather than just taking luck. So it may seem back to front logic, but I think it makes sense.
Unless they come stand side in the straight, but they only tend to do that when you're getting pretty testing ground. Is that fair? Is that right?
And the race is always already taken shape by then.
Yeah.
That's the point. You want to be in the position you want to be in when you're turning for home and that everyone's starting to sort themselves out. You don't want to have been trapped on the rail 4 or 5 back if that's where you don't want to be, because you're going to have a hell of a job. Even if they come to the stand side, you're gonna hell of a job to sort yourself out. So I think it's a really interesting track tactically wise, because even though it's flat, sweeping left-hand bends, I think there's a lot more to it than that.
So you two are both on A Star Above, drawn 2.
You've got to have a plan, Sammy.
Well, you've got Tom Marquand. I mean, that's as good as a plan, isn't it?
Mm.
I don't mind. I don't mind him there, and I don't think he will be switched right off out the back. I don't think Goodwood was his track at all. I think he's much more. I don't think he'll want to have this horse too far back. He's about 13.0. I think that's fair enough. Who was your? Do you have a main one, Sam? A sort of, if you're going to chuck some quid at one, or are you? Would you?
Well, if you two have gone for the other Haggis, I'll go for the main one. Favourite Moon. No surprises towards the head of the market, and it's a really unoriginal selection. But I do think I'm not sure, but was the other Roberto Escobar in this race at the 5-day stage as well, and they went to obviously the Voltager with him, but they left this lad in here. So maybe William was thinking, well, we'll split our darts as such, and we've got more of a chance with the with Favourite Moon in this race off 87. We'll try and exploit that handicap mark. So that's the thinking anyway.
Would you be worried if the ground did dry out?
Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to. There'll still be the odd shower about, won't there? I mean, they still think that they might get a little bit of rain in the lead up to this race. I don't know. I think he's quite a good moving horse. I know he won on deep ground at Haydock, but I still think he's a pretty useful horse on a normal surface. So I wouldn't be too perturbed, I don't think.
It could be a good day for William Haggas because he's got the favourite for the next race we're going to be looking at, which is the City of York. One Master, I don't think you can argue with her as favourite. I'll be honest, looking at the market as it stands, around about 3.0 for One Master, a point bigger for Safe Voyage, then another point bigger San Donato. If it stays like that at the head of the market, I can't really argue with those prices. I came off the back of Goodwood. I wanted to back San Donato wherever he showed up back over 7 furlongs, and now I can't quite make myself do it. I rewatched Goodwood and thought, well, he was. I mean, I know it was a Group 1, but he was comfortably put in his place. So I can't find an angle at the market at the moment to have a bet personally. Can either one of you?
Yeah, I can make a case for San Donato. I think he's got a really good chance. That form, obviously, with Mohatha at Ascot over a mile was very good. That was his first run for more than a year. Had the horse, likes of Dukes of Hazzard, Lord Glitters, Zaki in behind. So it's good form, even if you take Mohatha out, who was an easy winner. And then in the Sussex, we all saw that San Donato just pulled too hard, raced too freely. But I think that was a little bit to do with the fact that there was only 18 days since Ascot, having been off for 426 days, dropping back to 7 furlongs, should get a nice pace with last year's winner Shine So Bright and a few other front runners in there. I think against One Master, who at the end of the day did very well to win at Goodwood, another fillies race. She just wins fillies races quite regularly. She's only running a lot in fillies races a lot of the time, and I know that she won the foray last year on bad ground. I wouldn't take that Goodwood run as her being back to her very best, and I'm willing to take a chance with San Donato because I thought that was a very progressive horse last year, and coming up against Mohatha is far better than what One Master did, although she did very well to get out of trouble at Goodwood. So at the prices, I'd be San Donato.
Yeah, they're both rated the same, San Donato and One Master. She's got pound fillies allowed and Safe Voyage as well. I think it's tight. I suppose one of the most interesting things is what's going to go forward and make this. What's going to go and make it a test, or does it become tactical with the fact that we've got the 9 in there? And you see a guaranteed front runner, Sam?
Shine So Bright. Would Shine So Bright take them on? I couldn't see much other pace in the race, if I'm honest. You know, you'd hope perhaps they'd go forward with Shine So Bright, but you know, Beat Le Bon's dropped in. Brando, I can't see that over the trip. Escobar's a drop in. Safe Voyage, perhaps he might race pretty handy. He's, you know, they might think that's the best way to win with him off the front, and I suppose he'd be fairly ground dependent, although he's not totally a one trick pony. You look at One Master's record over 7 furlongs though, and she's pretty exemplary, really. I think 5 wins from 7 starts. One of those defeats came when she was drawn 17 of about 18 in the Oak Tree at Goodwood, and she only got beaten a length that day. So this is her trip. There should be no excuses, really. It's only the York factor, which is just putting me off probably having a bet, to be honest, at 2-1, because, you know, she hasn't been around the track yet. And as we know, it's really developed York into a horses for courses type of venue. So I do take on board Steve's points with San Donato as well. He's a horse that goes pretty well fresh. So that second run back off the break, that could have been the issue there, and I think he might have alluded to something worthwhile there. And the only other one that sort of interested me at a price, stepping up in trip, was Queen Jojo. I backed Breathtaking Look and thought she'd won for all money here a couple of starts ago for her anyway, and she's since gone on to run very creditably in the Hungerford. And Queen Jojo obviously came out of the clouds and won down the stand side rail and caught everyone napping that day. including the cameraman. I think stepping up to 7 for her might be interesting, and she's sort of 16, 20 to 1. I think there's a bit of an upside in her as well, especially with that York form already in the bank.
Yeah, I keep coming back to Threat York form. I've just been disappointed this year. I could see he's got a turn of foot, and I could see if it became tactical, I don't know. He's the one that might tempt me, but at this stage, I'm just sitting on the fence. But given how I've been going since the resumption of racing, I'll probably have a bet. There you go.
The last 5 winners of this race have all been 3-year-olds. The only 3-year-old in the race is Threat, but I can see why people were willing to give him another chance last time in the July Cup, because he travelled so well at Ascot and then just sort of emptied and say, "Oh, he didn't stay." But then I thought he travelled all right through the race in the July Cup, and then just didn't finish his race. And that's twice he hasn't finished his race. And I don't really want to be on a horse like that, even though he is dropping in class a little bit. I just wonder whether he was at his peak last year, and perhaps this year he's not going to live up to that sort of standard.
Yeah, they really felt he'd make it into a 3-year-old, and I think he probably fell in that camp of, do we campaign him as a Guineas horse? Oh, it didn't work. Let's bring back in Trip, try and make him a sprinter. And sometimes a 3-year-old season, before you know it, is over, and you've got to reset and come back as a 4-year-old. I don't know. At this stage, I'm sitting on my hands. Are you going to back San Donato, Jonesy?
Yeah, I think I haven't quite gone through it all from the final decks to make sure he is the right price, but I was quite keen on him, yeah.
Okay. Have you rated him for value yet, Steve?
I've just got my sticky labels out to put the right price on the value.
That is the haircut of a man who has sticky labels. Right. Yeah.
It's also the value. It's the haircut of the man who wants value because he's not paying for one.
That's definitely right. Any other bets on the day? I will lead us off if we can. And you know, I know we've got York Saturday. Any other bets? But if you will excuse me for popping over to Chelmsford in the 6:55, as you do.
Seriously?
But there's seriously. There's a horse running called Red October, who ran at Goodwood last time appallingly. He was 40 to 1.
Yeah, they're still hunting for him.
Yeah. I used that on Racing TV, and he'd had over a year and a half off. And I said the hunt for the Red October is over.
Oh.
And he won. He won at Leicester off a mark of 82. He went up to 89. He looked really good. Again, jockey and trainer representative, very positive about him and where he was going to end up as far as his campaign. And then Goodwood, he was up in grade. He was drawn in the car park. It all went wrong. He's easing back down in grade. He's off a mark of 87. And there's no market yet because we're a couple of days away and it's Chelmsford 6:55 on Ebor Day. But I don't think he'll be. You got Yuri Gagarin in there dropping in grade. Yeah, I don't think he'll be even fav. So just see what he is. I think he's worth a pop. Red October. I think he's well treated. This will be much easier. So I will almost certainly be backing him, unless he's like a silly 3.0 or something. I'll be having a go at Red October for Hugo Palmer in the 6:55 at Chelmsford. Steve.
Yeah, I was given a tip for horse at Folkestone Saturday night. So I'll probably put him in a double with yours. But elsewhere on the card at York, I think the Strenshaw Stakes is very interesting. And the one I like is Beringer, who I thought ran really well behind Dark Vision. And we know Dark Vision's come right back to form this season. Hit Pontefract. And that was Beringer's first run of the season when he got it. Hit Pontefract over a mile. You don't really want to be last in a small field. And that's where he was when Dark Vision got first run on him. It was a listed race. I thought he ran really well. He was only beaten a neck, and there was a good few lengths back to Foxtrot Lady that Beringer was giving weight to. We saw Dark Vision winning at Ascot, so that form stacks up. And if you go back to the last run of last season, Beringer was second to Lord North, who's obviously proven to be a Group 1 horse, and that was in the Cambridgeshire when Beringer was giving weight to Lord North without the claim. Because Beringer was ridden by Thor Hammer Hansen claiming 5, but down to to give Lord North £4, and the pair of them were well clear in the closing stages. So Alan King, we've seen what at Royal Ascot, what he can do with his flat horses, and I think he's going to get another group race win at York on Saturday in the Strensall with Berringer.
I can see that. He's got some very, very good levels of form and a bit of York form as well. Sam, any other bets on Saturday?
Yeah, one horse I do like runs a little bit later on in the Julia Graves Roses, the 2-year-old, the listed race, and it's Acclam Express, who was purchased before winning at Goodwood, winning a nursery in good style. Any juice in the ground for this lad will be much appreciated, but he did win on decent ground at Goodwood, won very well, bolted up off 77. He's up a stone, up to 92 now, but I do think he's up to this level. Fingers crossed he's a fairly tasty price. I see he's drawn 2. I don't mind that too much. And Politics would be my chief danger, but the form got let down a little bit yesterday with the nursery performance of the 4th home that day. So yeah, I'll go with Acclam Express. I was going to take Jonesy on in the first, but I've learned to my cost. You just can't go head to head with a value rater.
Yeah, that would be mean, wouldn't it, doing that? I think best bet on Saturday.
Best bet. I really do like Pondus in the Ebor.
Great.
But I'm willing to go for one of your other selections, maybe the Chelmsford one.
Pondus for Steve is the best bet on Saturday afternoon in the Ebor. No, I don't have any shame in doing this, but I am going to have my best bet as Pondus in the Ebor, because if you can't beat him, join him. And yeah, I think Pondus got a smashing chance. So Pondus as well for the
everyone with the good hair goes for Pondus.
Exactly. What you got, Sam? What you got?
If you're saying what do I think will win, I think One Master, but I can't tip her at 2-1, and I can't tip in the Ebor because you two have gone for that. So I will go for. I'll go Acclam Express then in the Julia Graves.
Acclam Express, that's the same as your other bet. Lovely job. Acclam Express and the Julia Graves also on Saturday.
Great pleasure.
That is Saturday done. So now we turn our attention back to Friday. So this is looking ahead to what's still a fantastic day in the main, because it's kicked off with the Nunthorpe as far as the Group 1 action goes. I look sometimes when we do the pod and you get an odds-on shot in there, even if it's a group race. Sometimes you think, well, are we going to find an angle in this? But I can't really. But I thought it was an interesting enough race to analyse. With Batash in there, I used to be Team Lay at York for Batash. It used to be a case of, he turned up there twice and I didn't like him there at all. And for 2 years, that was the right thing to do. And then last year, it absolutely wasn't, because he absolutely bolted up. He smashed his owner companion Deja's track record, and he was absolutely stunning. So he's not a take-on job at York, I don't think, anymore. And I don't think Art Power is a good enough horse to beat him. So I think he's the right favourite, but I wouldn't be steaming in at the price he is personally. Have you got a betting angle, Sam, that you can approach the Nunthorpe with?
Yeah, well, I was sort of backing Anti-Post a couple of weeks ago, thinking the race might really, really cut up, to be honest. And, I could see that Art Power was going to run, but there was going to be one or two, the likes of Golden Power were going to run. So I've been backing Ali, the Simon and Ed Crisford horse, each way, pretty much against Batash, and hoping that Batash does revert to one of his bad old days on the Naysmire and just has an off day. He's also got Ornate right alongside him as well. Now, I know they were in close proximity at Goodwood, but I sometimes think that, that could be a little bit of a favour for something like Ali, who's drawn a little bit away from that and won't get quite so embroiled in such a speed duel up front. I'm clutching at straws, trying to find a little chink in the armour of Batash. And if he's going to get beaten anywhere at the moment, then York might be the place. But look, he was a very impressive winner here last year, and he looks as though he's turned a corner, and they've done a magnificent job with him. Such a coiled spring as Batash, and just keeping him on the boil for so long. for so many seasons. He's 6 now, and being able to do that, I mean, that's great credit to his lad Bob and Charlie Hills and the whole team there, that they've done a magnificent job with him, really. And we get to see such a blistering ball of speed, and it's brilliant that he's lighting up these sprint races all throughout the calendar. So he's very, very difficult to beat. I'll probably end up tipping him, but Ali would be the each way play for me, and hopefully all 8 stay in, and you can have a bit of fun with that bet.
He's round about 1.5. I think the ornate factor is very interesting, because there was a theory with Batash. Twice when he won at Goodwood, he'd been drawn 1 on a wing. He'd previously, when he'd won at wasn't at Ascot, it was somewhere else, he'd been drawn on a wing. And there was a thought that he doesn't like anything really up with him. And I do think the ornate factor, who is a ball of speed, I mean, he won't be, but he could just make him run a bit of his race a bit too soon. I thought that was an interesting angle to be against him. Is there a price that he might get to, Sam? Is there a price where you might consider just laying him? I take it it's not at 1.5 at the moment.
I probably wouldn't. I think with these quality races, I will have a bet in them. And who knows? I might look at backing ornate without the favourite. Daft as it sounds, probably have to be a win bet. Unfortunately, you'd like another runner and then bet ornate each way. It's the same form line. I can't, ornate 66 to 1 on a track which should really suit him as well. He might just cling on for 3rd or 4th in this race and give you a bit of a run for your money, even though he's 7. But I mean, we've seen magnificent things that David Griffiths has done with these aging sprinters before, like Duca Ferenzi, and there's a whole host of them, really. So I wouldn't be surprised to see ornate run well, and he might be the type of horse that you might be able to find a match bet for or something like that. But it does concern me a little bit for Batash that he's got such a brazen speed alongside him, raw speed, and there could be an element of when both of them and Richards used to get together, who could hit the ball the furthest, or Peterson and Flintoff, and it might be the same with Batash and ornate.
And with ornate, on the day you might well be looking at a chunky odd price on the Matchbook exchange as well, and in the place market as well. That'll translate.
Yeah. Just a place bet ornate, and hope that his speed carries him so far into the race and he clings on for 3rd at a price.
Steve, you're going to have a bet in the race?
I'd have said it was unlikely, but any opportunity to see a horse like Batash should not be taken lightly, because I think he's fantastic. And the reason I wouldn't want to go in at odds on is twofold. One, yes, he won the Nunthorpe last year, but we've seen 2 years before that there was people saying he didn't like York, and his record there isn't up to his usual high standards. And the other thing to note, I think, in which sort of sums Batash up a little bit, he's only won 3 races in a row once, and that was in his 3-year-old year when he went first of all at Sandown in the listed race, then back to Sandown, and then to Goodwood, and the winning run came to an end, funnily enough, in the Nunthorpe in the year Marsha won. So he is a horse that can put in, and if he run, for all his brilliance, I don't really buy the fact that ornate will put him off his stride. He doesn't have to lead Batash. And last year at Goodwood, he was drawn very close to ornate. I think there was only a couple of stalls between them, and he just let ornate get on with it, and then just travelled in behind him. So he doesn't need to lead. I think he is by far the most likely winner in the race. But I must say, I've been very impressed with Art Power. I think this horse has got a lot of speed. I know he won over 6 furlongs at Naas last time in a Group 3 when he won very impressively. There were 7 lengths back to the 3rd horse that day. And then what he did at Ascot in the handicap when he won by 3 or 4 lengths, making all the running. So he's got a lot of pace for 5 furlongs. He's going to need it at York, taking on ornate and Batash. But I think this is a horse we'll hear a lot more of, and looking forward to next season. I think we'll see him in all the top sprints, and I am expecting him to put up a good show. But then again, he's second favourite, so I can't really see a bet, to be honest. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Batash again.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think if he does get short, I think 1.5 is about fair. I think he look at the Abbey. He can just be, irrespective of what else in the field, he can just have a blowout run. I think if he shortened up from that, around about 1.44 or shorter, I might just be tempted hit the lay button person in and have an interest in that. We'll see. Let's move on to the staying contest, which again in the past has been a sort of Stradivarius Lonsdale Cup Stradivarius show. It's really bad to say it, but I'm quite glad he's not turning up and that he's going for the Arc. And it means we've got an open enough contest, I think, for a Lonsdale Cup, given what we've seen in recent years. Go on, Jonesy, kick us off for this.
Well, I was interested to see that Emberhar was favourite, to be honest, because I think they've got them the wrong way round here. Or certainly when I was looking at them, she was favourite. And I know she's got a good profile, and what she did it in the Lily Langtree, on the face of it was very good. But she was 2s on. And the fact is she runs in fillies races nearly all the time. And when the twice that she's run against colts in listed group races, she's been beaten both times. So I certainly don't think she's bomb-proof. And the one that I do like is Nayef Road, who I think stepping up from up to 2 miles this season, it's been excellent. Won at Newcastle in a good competitive race, the Cigaro Stakes, which obviously switched to the all-weather this year, and then backed that up at Ascot, finishing second in the Gold Cup to Stradivarius, and then got a hell of a lot closer at Goodwood. And where people were talking about Santiago being the next great stayer and possibly beating Stradivarius, well, Nayef Road gave a stone and £1 to Santiago and beat him fairly comfortably. A little bit concerned he's not the only pace in the race, because of course Withhold is in there, but maybe he doesn't have to lead. I don't think he does. And I think if he sits on Withhold's tail, I think he'll see this 2 mile trip out really strongly. And I think MBR is going to have a hell of a job to reel in Nayef Road. So I'm quite strong. And we talk about the Mark Johnson factor at York. Yes, that's over with.
Good stuff. We're not agreeing here, Jonesy. But Sam, what do you think first?
Yeah, I mean, Nayef Road's one of my favourite horses in training. I'm with Steve there. But my real concern about him is he's been twice to York and been beaten 8 lengths and 13 lengths. He's only beaten 2 horses in 2 starts there. That's a bit of a concern for me, to be honest, for a horse that is so reliable, so consistent, that, you know, whenever he's been there, he got beat 13 lengths by a Logician. I think he got beat 8 lengths as well in an earlier race when he was a younger horse. So those are the 2 things that are putting me off about him, really, at York. I've got to go with Mbihar. I think she's a very, very decent and talented mare on good ground. And hopefully, thanks to Steve's weather forecast, we should get some decent ground come Friday, Saturday, and that should be absolutely perfect for her. She had a little exercise canter at Goodwood, bolted up that day. She's always done some good figures, this mare, and she's got a really good game and genuine attitude as well, not to mention a fair bit of quality. So she'll do for me in this.
And I'm very much Team Emberhar. It's a double-pronged attack against you, Jonesy. I think she is going to relish the step up in trip. I think she'll have the race set up nicely for her. I got it completely wrong. I took her on at Goodwood last year because of the ground. I used to think she wanted to get her toe in. I think she had a bit of knee about her, and I didn't do anything quickly. And actually, I think she's probably pretty ground versatile, to be honest. And I think she is. No, I mean, she's not of. This isn't the deepest renewal, perhaps, for Ordinary Approach. She had a good level of form this season, but I think she can beat these, and I think she's a fair price. I had a note she was. Yeah, I think 3.5 is. I'm very happy with that. I think she will take a lot of beating here. Emberhar for me. Nayef Road is, as you say, Steve, about half a point bigger at this stage. So if you think that's a bit of value on your side, then fair enough. Anything else to add, Lonsdale Cup, guys?
Done.
Only to say, I get what you're saying, Sam, about Nayef Road in York, but the first instance was in the Dante, when I think they were just too fast for him. And then in the Voltager last year, for some reason they held him up over 1.5 miles, which didn't seem to work. So I'm keeping the faith.
Quite right too. Any other bets on Friday? Steve?
Yeah, I think the Gimcrack is a really interesting race. It's priced up around the hot favourite, who was impressive last time, Minzal. But although there was, I think purely on the market, I think the horse there's two horses in here that I think are very interesting. Mystery Smiles is the first one, who wins the first time out over 5 furlongs, despite being slowly away, and but then had the pace to go and win, although it wasn't the greatest races. But at Chester last time, not a lot went right. It was drawn 6 of it was only a 5-runner field, and Mystery Smiles was drawn 6 and had to be wide the whole way, which is a big disadvantage, even in a small field at Chester. And to get on top of a horse like Zamani, albeit getting a few pounds, I thought was very impressive. And that form stacks up because Zamani had won that good nursery at Goodwood. So I think Mystery Smiles has got a good chance. And the other one, if I'm going to take 2 against the field to take on the favourite Minzal, Escape Route, who's an even bigger price, I think, is one horse that I was impressed with at Pontefract on debut, when again winning of 5 furlongs despite missing the break and racing wide, and then was 3rd in the July Stakes. Now, I thought that was typical of a horse who wasn't experienced enough to go into a group race at Newmarket in the July Stakes, but still finished 3rd, because I think horses that have gone from winning a maiden straight into group races are at a massive disadvantage in 2-year-old races. And I thought that was a really nice performance. And Escape Route travelled really well. Richard Fahey trains him, knows all about winning these sort of races at York. And although Escape Route was a couple of lengths behind Yazaman in the July Stakes, Yazaman was much more experienced. And I think he's a good bet to turn that round. It's certainly. And I think he might well win this Escape Route, and Mystery Smiles as well. So those are my 2 against the field.
Around about 10.0 for Mystery Smiles. Escape Route's a chunky double figures as well. You could be looking at 20s on the day when the market's fully formed. It could be a big old price. Sam, any other bets on Friday?
Well, it saved me buying the Mirror on Saturday or Friday, hasn't it? With Jonesy going for Escape Route, I think that's definitely one that he's warmed up and come off the long run for. I can certainly see why as well. I think it's a really good value bet. It's the tactical form line, and as you say, you're getting 4 or 5 times the price of Yazaman, who keeps dropping himself out and running on in these races, but he's just struggling to win one. So I can certainly see the case for him. I'll probably go with something like Hartswood in the last race. A handicapper, Richard Fahey, looks as though it's been saved for this meeting. Won over a mile course and distance on good ground and clocked a really good figure in beating Tadley. That's a couple of times that Hartswood's been around York this year, over 7 and a mile. Performed really creditably on both starts. And if there's any double figures about him with 3 or 4 places up for grabs, then I'll probably bet him. And
I am going to go away from York again. Apologies, but there's a horse called 7th Kingdom running in the 255 at Salisbury. It's a listed race. It's the Stonehenge.
You've got too much time on your hands, you have, Stanley. You've got too much time on your hands to look at these other meetings.
It's sad, isn't it? Cheap pieces on. I don't really know what to make of that necessarily, but I thought the long line defeat on debut was impressive. And I thought he ran really well in behind Master of the Seas, which could easily be the best bit of 7 furlong juvenile form this year. He was 3rd. He was keeping on. He was a bit wayward. That probably explains the cheap pieces. I don't think he loved the track. He's a Frankel, desperate for a mile. If you can get 2.25 or bigger, happy days, I think. I think he'll be a well-backed favourite in the race. So 7th Kingdom in the 255 at Salisbury. And in the other 2-year-old race, I quite like Yazaman in the Gimcrack, who's got a bit of form behind Tactical and Supremacy. And I don't think Goodwood suited last time. Supremacy had too much tactical, if you want, tactical speed for the horse. But I thought Yazaman's got some really good form. I think the track will suit. William Haggis in the Gimcrack, job done. Why not put Yazaman, 7th Kingdom and Enbahar in a treble? And I probably will do that. There are multiples available now on the Matchbook horse racing site. So all your multiples on there, doubles, trebles, luckies, whatever you want, they're all there. It's a great tool, and I will certainly be multiplying those up. So I'll stick those, I would imagine, in a Trixie or a treble. Probably just do an outright treble. So there you go. Best bets. Go on, Jonesy, kick us off. Best bet for Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that treble, Chelmsford, Salisbury, Clairefontaine, was it? Something like that.
Yeah. Plus England in the Test match and the trap one in the 12-17 at Crayford. Not that Tom's addicted.
I would say I like Nayef Road in the Lonsdale. I think he's the solid bet of the day, but I'll be certainly having a little bit each way on Escape Route in the Gimcrack, and if the prices are right, Mystery Smiles is well in the Gimcrack.
I will go.
Who best bets then have you've got there, Jonesy? You are a politician, aren't you? You never answer a question.
I like to give value, Sammy. So you're getting 2 for the price of 1. And I do like it that you think I'm a cabinet minister lookalike, a Tory, because that means that I can never be sacked.
Very true. You just get shifted from paper to paper, Steve. That's what happens.
Both your best are they in the same race, Steve? Both the value in the Gimcrack, is that right? Escape Route and Mystery Smiles.
Yeah, they're the 2 I do like, and I think my main thing about the Gimcrack is I think the market is wrong for those 2 horses.
I will go with. Sorry, Sam, if it was yours. I think Emberhar's a great bet in that cut. I think she's definitely my best bet. Emberhar, and you, Sam.
And in the spirit of searching for some value, I'm going to go Hartswood, Wynnum Place in the last race.
Hartswood, Wynnum Place in the last. We're done. I think that's it. Great stuff. Thanks, guys. I hope you build up the coffers over the next couple of days leading into Saturday, and then we'll have a bit of money to play with. But it's great to be back. Isn't it nice to be back talking about horse racing? It's a pleasure, right?
There's nothing better than this, and it's great that we can talk about all these great races at York and everything. I know we're not on the track, but just talking about it gives you a bit of sanity, and it's great that we can back them with Matchbook as well. Lovely
job. Jonesy, thank you. Sam, thanks very much, mate. Lovely to talk, and thanks for you guys at home for joining us. Hope we found you some winners, and look forward to chatting to you on a regular basis now. See you soon. Bye-bye.